Ashton Buffer.
Ashton, come over here. Join us. Let's have a chat.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, it's sexy over here.
Oh,
yeah.
Let's slide in.
I'm trying to remember what was
Coming in for a cuddle. Let's get Lewis on the line.
Sure. If I can have a
So many options. Turner Hooch.
The
The
only
mermaid movie.
one big.
Yep. Hey, Lewis.
Yes.
Hey, how's it going?
It's Lewis.
Going well. How are you guys?
It's Lewis time. Hi, Lewis.
How you doing? I don't know if
Doing
you
pretty
can. I don't know
well.
if you can see us.
I cannot see you. At the
Oh,
moment.
that's too bad. That's
I mean, I
fine.
can see you on my TV in the corner, which has the Desert Bus feed, but I'm seeing you about 10 seconds ago.
Okay. Well, that's fine. You can see how intimate this chat has become.
Wait, oh, wait, for a second.
Yeah, wait for the delay.
I can see the webcam now from the computer in the
Thank you,
corner.
Chad.
Okay, let's have a little bit of a chat about who Lewis is and why Lewis is calling. So to understand that, you need to first understand the Desert Bus for Hope iOS app, or iPhone app rather, because technically it doesn't work on iPad natively. Created by the three of us.
You might want to watch the road there, Jared.
Oh yeah, we're good.
Let me add a list for you.
There we go.
Huh?
Created by
Actually,
the
I'll go.
three of us over the last little while. Probably about 2 months. So, drive a cam.
Driver cam.
Drive a cam.
Back. Nope. Yeah.
The wonderful and amazing Desert Bus for Hope app that can show you all sorts of things that you may or may not have known were happening during Desert Bus.
Reverse.
It can
I
give you on
can't do
top
this while not
prizes.
looking at it. Yeah.
So
Go
much
around this
money.
side. There you go.
Those first half 80s are nice. Those are very nice.
For sure.
Stats and graphs. You get to see the feed.
But no, it didn't take place through the 80s.
Feed.
Look how big this baby
For those of you who haven't
Sure it's
seen
88.
all of this stuff already,
Oh, wait.
look at your prizes.
Shit.
I'll check it.
Yeah.
You'll be cheating. No, you can't look it up.
Oh,
Damn
oh,
it.
yeah.
You
No,
can
we're
view
not
and
for
bid online.
So
auctions
much info.
Or on silent
Aggregate
auctions.
just for you.
Disappeared. No.
All right.
Some driver info for you. Look at
Yeah.
that sexy man.
That's a sexy man right there. Okay, so we
You've been
started.
sufficiently prepped.
Lewis, why don't you introduce yourself? Because people kind of know who me and Ashton are, but they don't have much context for you.
Okay. Name's Louis Moga. I am a developer by trade living over in Michigan in the USA. I have been doing app development in general for about 2.5 years now, and for about 7 years before that I did primarily Windows side development, production environment stuff, plant processing. Other than that, I've been a long time watcher of Desert Bus, and I think last year I was in the help chat or the admin chat or something, and I was like, why don't you guys have an app? Do you want an app?
And Ian, who was around, was like, oh, that's a good idea. We should contact this guy, and brought it up a little bit later at a meeting. And so I had already sort of been thinking along the same lines and contacted you about 6 months later. But then we sort of played telephone tag or email tag or whatever for 4 more months after that.
It was very amusing because it would be one of us would send an email, and then the other one would get back about 3 weeks later saying that they're sorry that we've been so busy, and then the same thing would happen over and over.
Yeah. And it would always be like, I would send Lewis an email and check my email, check that email account, which is like the Desert Bus account, so I didn't have it hooked up to my client for whatever reason, so I would then check it for like consistently for a few days, not see anything, then check back in a week and there'd be nothing there, and then I'd just give up and be like, okay, he's never getting back to me, whatever. And then sure enough, I'd tune in 3 weeks later and there he was. So, yeah, anyway, it was bad, it was disorganized, but by the time we finally got our act together, it was a couple months before Desert Bus. I was already sure that we didn't have time to get an app together, but Lewis told me that was not the case.
Yes. Which isn't to say that I didn't think it was an unreasonable timeline, but just that I was confident we could do it.
Yeah. So we'd always said like just having the sort of dashboard screen that shows the totals and gives you an idea of the stats and whatnot. Gave you a graph so you could see the sort of like trajectory of where we were going and whatnot was enough. But it would be nice to have all these other things that tied into the database that Ashton has been using to run the website for a few years now. And so Ashton, I was like, hey Ashton, could we turn this database into an API? And he was like, yeah, that should be doable. I didn't realize it was going to be really hard.
I don't think any of us realized the scope we were eventually going to end up with.
Yeah,
Like,
the
we can
project
just get
had so
graphs
much
and
feature
some
creep
donor
in it.
information. It'll be fine. And it's like, well, what if we could get all of the information about the drivers? And what about the prizes? And what about bidding on prizes? And we just kind of kept expanding the scope of it. And ended up with what you've got today.
A child.
So as I see it, there wasn't like we had a meeting, myself, and by we I mean myself, James, Graham, and I don't know if you were. I think you were present for that too, Ashton, where we originally talked about the app and what it would contain before we talked to you, Lewis, and from basically everything that was discussed in that meeting, like there's nothing in the app now. I don't think that wasn't discussed in that meeting. In fact, there's a little bit less because we were talking about some insane features like allowing people to bid on live auctions from the app, like having like a bid remote. That basically it wasn't like a full IRC client. All it did was allow you to bid, which is like a scary button to put into people's hands.
Which is why some of you might have noticed that when it was initially put onto the App Store, it had a 17+ rating with all kinds of things like horror and graphic cartoon violence. And all.
Yeah, because if we were going to be including chat feed, we have to cover anything that could be typed.
You guys get a little crazy sometimes.
Yeah. We're hoping to get that rating down, but it might not happen before the end of the run. So, or it'll not get down. It'll still be 17+, but just get more realistic riders on it. Because like nudity and explicit sexuality and whatnot.
It's unlikely at Desert Bus.
Because there's a separate section for suggestive stuff.
Okay.
Like that's completely different.
Oh, is that why it comes up with a second? Are you sure you want to download this?
I would assume so. Yeah. So we did a live stream already where we kind of showed off the features of the app and whatnot, but obviously we've had a couple of issues with it. We had a day 0 bug that took our schedule offline, which is too bad. But we're trying to get a fix through Apple, but who knows when that will actually be done.
Apple takes as long as Apple takes.
Apple,
pretty much.
Yeah. We want to talk a little bit about. I don't know. What do you guys want to talk about? I had a lot of fun working on this project, staying up until 2 in the morning and having meetings on my balcony.
I want to talk about how you and I just communicated by text for a few weeks. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there was a lot of late nights, but it was kind of what? Sorry,
late nights or early nights, depending on how you define them.
I want to ask Lewis, how much, like, do you ever sleep? Are you, because Jeremy would get these texts from you at, like, I don't know, 5 in the morning your time or something. He's like, dear God, man, what are you doing? You have a day job, don't you?
I have a day job, but I don't have a solid what time I have to start in the morning. So I had a lot of, I would go to bed at 7 in the morning days, and then I would wake up at like noon, and then I'd do real work, and then I'd do Desert Bus work, and it was a lot of not sleeping a lot, but I've never been good at sleeping anyways, so, you know.
I think Ashton has that same problem.
This title thing at the bottom over here is a lie. This part over here, sleep. There we go.
Sleep happers.
Not sleep happers.
I've had sleep a few times since I think the app finished, but then Desert Bus is starting, and now there's chat and all the stuff with Apple, so it's only a little bit of sleep having, followed by more not sleep having.
There's not a lot of sleep having in this room in general, I think, right now. Ashton, did you have any specific memories of working on the app that you
I'm
wanted to
just,
share?
I'm gonna be sad that I can't talk to people at 3 a.m. anymore.
Yeah, it was kind of nice. I will
I'm usually all alone.
Like, we were always
You
like
could go to bed.
trying to put out fires and stuff, but it was nice to have this sort of like, hey, okay, cool, we need to have a meeting at this point so that we can like talk about this cool project we're working on. It's very cool to be part of a team like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, and we also tended to have this thing where it was, hey, can someone jump on Google Hangout for a second so we can discuss this? And then 2 hours later, we're still on Google Hangout discussing and changing things and making improvements.
Yeah. Which is fun. And poor Ashton, of course, is he has an Android phone and an Android tablet.
I did these changes. Can somebody look at it for me? I can't do it. Yeah.
Yeah, so
fun.
yeah, it was kind of interesting because the workflow was, I did all of the app programming, Ashton did all of the API programming, and Jared did pretty much all of the design and graphics, and then tried to coordinate between the two of us because I couldn't be doing the API stuff and he couldn't be doing the app stuff, so we basically always required the other person when we were trying to make changes.
3 a.m. hangouts.
I got a question for Jared, actually.
Yep.
When did you start work on the design of the look of the app?
Well, okay, so basically I didn't put any, like I already had an idea kind of how I wanted it to look because I frankly work for an interface design company, and so I had a lot of good inspiration there as to how we can make a nice looking and efficient and whatnot app. So I didn't put anything down digitally though until shortly, like we had this meeting, as I say, before I talked to Lewis with James, Graham, and Ashton, and that's when I started putting wireframes together.
Okay.
And so that was maybe 2.5 months before, and then by the time we were actually talking with Lewis, we had actually more full. There were more full wireframes very quickly, and then the actual PSDs, the comps of the various views, showed up within I'd say a week and a half to 2 weeks after that. It was a very accelerated process, and Lewis actually sent me a message or something at some point that was like, hey, we need to come up with a system for tagging things when they're done so that I can work on them, because I had gone into, he was working on the driver view, and I had gone in and changed a font not realizing that he was working on it, and he just got the update. I think this is what happened, Lewis, that it had changed but wasn't sure what had changed.
Yeah.
And got very grumpy about it.
So you weren't epically tilting after WWDC then?
No,
I mean,
no, we were
a lot of the graphic design changed during the process. I mean, there was a lot of evolution between the first alpha we put out of the app, even after we'd kind of tried to nail things down in the final one. So there was, some of those PSDs had 20 revisions on them that were important.
Yeah. There, and
your camera.
we learned, or I learned a lot actually in that process about just generally designing in such a way that basically defining like meanings and language in the design. So like originally there were a lot more of the little push chevrons all over the place, and those went away. Eventually we nailed it down so that like blue text is always interactive and never is used for highlights or titles or anything like that. Sometimes it's used for graphics, but basically anytime you see blue it should be interactive. There were a lot of small changes to like fix the shapes of things and whatnot, but a lot of it was just learning valuable lessons and figuring out why in iOS 7 Apple has the standards that it does about things, which aren't always obvious. And there's like they have design, they have a whole design package that tells you a lot of that, but some of it is just kind of unspoken as well. So.
I'm getting, one person keeps asking if we're planning on making the API an open API, and I've been thinking about it. I mean, they're doing it from like a security standpoint and a practicality standpoint is not too hard. But what kind of information would you need that you wouldn't be getting from Desert Bus anyway, that is outside of the Desert Bus events?
I did saying that just one other.
Well, I can think of any number of things that people could do to try and sort of tie in. Like the request to make the API entirely open or publish it has been out there for a little while. I think, well, since it's been existent for the last few weeks. But I think that something that would be a little bit more feasible is I have this email, projects@desertbus.org. If you have something specific that you want to have tie into the Desert Bus API, email me. That is basically my job at Desert Bus is the head of secret projects. We can chat about things that you could possibly do with the API to do something. Make an Android app is not one of those things because that would require access to the entire API, and it is something we're really hoping to do ourselves. Just we didn't have time this year. That was the one correct scope decision we made.
Yes.
Was that we didn't have time to do Android this year. We're sorry, but it was a correct decision.
Trust me, I want an Android app too because it's really, really nice having access to all the stuff on the go. And I've never owned an Apple device, so that's all I have access to. So yeah, it is definitely on our radar.
So I've seen a few guys in the chat asking where they can get the app. It is currently available in the Apple App Store. Search Desert Bus for Home.
Yeah. Or if you go to the Desert Bus website in Mobile Safari, it should just get a banner directing you to it.
Yeah, and to answer the question that I have been getting constantly in chat is the reason there's no live feed is because Twitch has a really good app for the iPhone and iPad already, and that has a live feed for the show, and we didn't think we needed to reinvent a perfectly good wheel.
Yeah.
How many ukuleles do you own, Lewis?
How many ukuleles do I own? I'm pretty sure it's 0, but my brother has left 1 or 2 random instruments in my basement before, so I can't definitively say that.
All right.
Man, those relatives coming over leaving random musical instruments.
So inconsiderate.
Lewis, we're going to have to let you go pretty quick because we've got other stuff that we're going to need to get to. But before we do that, I need to ask you for a $7 super. Do you know what's going on with the $7 superheroes?
I vaguely have heard reference to it, but I didn't get the explanation yet.
We have
I think I
had
was asleep when it started.
We've had someone offer to donate $7 for each superhero we can collect. So what we need from you is a superhero and a power for that superhero. And something that would be cool. That doesn't have to be like someone that you would be. It can just be a cool superhero.
It doesn't actually have to be cool. You just have to think it's cool.
Right.
Like James is one.
I love James.
You know what I've
cool.
always wanted is a superhero. I think you'd have to call it something really unrelated to the power. So let's call him, I don't know. Let me think of a name while I describe the power. So the power would be the ability to summon flying, flaming kittens that will attack his prey for him. Now, they're not flaming like they're on fire and dying. They're flaming like magical flaming bush. But they can bite someone and start them on fire. And they can fly because kittens should fly. That's just a good thing for a kitten to do, especially when on fire.
So whoever they bite immediately becomes engulfed in flames.
Yeah, pretty much. It's kind of like, if you're in a first-person shooter RPG and you shoot someone with an elemental weapon, they're just on fire now.
Okay.
And I think we should call him something like Mr. Walks-A-Lot, or something really unrelated.
Okay.
Mr. Walks a lot?
Yep, Mr. Walks-A-Lot.
Okay.
I want to summon flying, flaming kittens.
I like Nyan Man.
You know what? I also like Neon Men, actually, more, maybe. Whoever came up with that's good. Go Scott, go blue.
Nyan Man? Is that what we're going with?
Nyan Man.
All
Yep,
right.
yeah.
His catchphrase can be, "It's kitten time."
It is always kitten time.
Excellent.
Sweet.
Okay, Lewis, we're going to have to let you go. I want to talk about this 777 challenge we're doing a little bit more before we hit the deadline on it. And but thank you so much for calling in and saying hi. And yeah, we want people to know who you are because you've done us a solid this year. You've put in a huge amount of work. Lewis is amazing, hardworking, generally awesome to talk to and interact with. So we love Lewis. Thank you so much for making this app happen.
Hey, thank you guys for making this event happen for children. They deserve it, and you guys do a good job.
Feature request for next year, the blog display does not show GIFs properly.
Nope.
Yeah, the
We
blog
need-
display doesn't show a lot properly.
Animated GIFs, dang it.
We'll get there. We'll
Yeah.
get there.